and Change Adventure Navigator. It is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace, and her own soul fire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soul fire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and Tips, Tricks, and Triumphs Tuesday. So the shows have been pre-recorded for the last 6 weeks, so it's really good to be back live streaming to Facebook and YouTube. So I hope we have some live viewers with us now. Before we get started with our show, I wanted to talk a little bit about a modality that I frequently use, and I used with a client this week, which she had some questions that made me think, well, maybe I should talk about that a little and let people know a little bit more about it. And the technique you may have heard of, it's EFT, or Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's sometimes called tapping. And it's an energy psychology modality that uses the acupressure meridian points, and what it does is it releases stress, anxiety, fear, and limiting beliefs. And it was put together or created by Gary Craig in the 1990s. And it was created from the prior work of a man called Roger Callahan. And he had what was called thought field therapy, or TFT. And Craig kind of refined that down into a process that actually had some testing for results behind it, and did a lot of verification of how EFT actually worked. And basically, EFT works by physically releasing the tension or stress in our body and linking that to the neutralizing of our emotions or our emotional negatives. And it's especially effective for people who hold on to anxiety, negative thoughts, fears, or past traumas, like people that are real worriers. One of the things that I like about EFT is that it's easy to learn. And although it's most effective when you're guided through it by a professional, it can be a totally self-help technique. It can be learned fairly quickly and is effective fairly quickly. So if you'd like to find out more information about that, you can go to my website. That's soulfirewisdom.com. That's the coaching website. And there's actually some diagrams and a little bit of information, a little bit more information on how it actually works there. So I'm really excited about our show today. My guest is Theresa Callahan, and she is a career and leadership coach, and she's also the creator of Retreats to Tuscany, and that's a full immersion women's retreat program based in Tuscany to help women reconnect with themselves in a unique way through travel and a series of transformational experiences. Many women have an inner yearning to pursue more, create more, to really, live the life of their dreams. And Theresa loves taking her groups to a small medieval village in southern Tuscany to immerse them fully into a culture and experience the magic of slowing down and setting powerful intentions for new beginnings. So I'm really excited to talk to her now and find out more about these retreats. Hi, Theresa.
Hello, Kate. Thank you. Great introduction. Made me just sit back and daydream about 2 months from now when I will be there.
Oh, wow.
The sound of that. Love listening to you describe it. It's just great.
So to start out with, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you to this path?
Yeah, well, so I have been coaching and leading retreats and events for almost 20 years and have a real affinity and love of Tuscany. My first time in Tuscany was back in 2006. In fact, just the other day, I was looking at some travel brochures and my first planning adventure, and the things that stood out for me that just moved me so much the first time that I was there. But there was a 10-year hiatus. I had not been back to Tuscany, and I went back in 2017. Several things unfolded during that trip with myself, which I'll talk about today, which really led to this amazing retreat experience. 4 groups later, I am prepared to take my 5th group this fall. I've got 5 events planned between now and next fall. And I tell you, Kate, every time I take a new group, I am reminded why I do the work that I do and how remarkable and how special it is to live in this village and have these experiences with the locals that really have transformed lives.
Well, I've heard wonderful things about the retreats. I think I followed that, evolution on Facebook. So,
thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's amazing the power of social media. And I've had women in particular reach out to me and say, Theresa, I've been following you for the past 2 years. Theresa, I've been watching your posts and your stories, and I want to go. I'm ready to do it. And it takes a lot of bravery for someone to finally step up. And it reminds me, and I said this to the group of women in our first Zoom coaching session a couple of weeks ago, you never know who's watching. You never know who's following. And just by traveling and doing something like this inspires other women, and the right people always show up, the right people inquire, and it's really special. I suppose that's the leadership element for all of us. You just never know who's watching, and that's pretty delightful. What an honor.
So the past year and a half has been, chaos for most of us. How has it affected you and your business?
Well, the retreat program has been heartbreaking. Thank goodness, right? I haven't put all of my eggs in that basket. This has been an evolving process. My full-time gig that I have been doing for 18 years now is as a private consultant. I do leadership development, team building, coaching, consulting for small business owners throughout the country. And of course, like all of us, our work has gone virtual. It's been heartbreaking for me on so many levels because of the relationships that I have in Tuscany and everything that they've experienced, we have experienced. I've watched them go through transitions through the pandemic. I'll never forget the day that my yoga instructor in Tuscany called me, and we talk on WhatsApp quite a bit to each other. And she said, Theresa, I had the most strange experience. And she was explaining how one family member at a time could go to the market to grocery shop. You had to wear a mask. And when she arrived there were these boxes set up 6 feet apart, and they were limiting how many people could go into the market. When one person would exit, another person who would arrive could enter. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That would never happen here in the States, right? And wouldn't you know it, 5-6 weeks later, here we are. I show up, at Trader Joe's. I'm standing in line with my mask on. And it's been fascinating to watch the evolution of things. And the Italians are rule followers anyhow. So, and they isolate and they do what they need to do to get through something like this. And so they've been great role models for us. And it's helped me stay connected and feel connected to them, watching everything that they've gone through. So it's emotional for me. I am so grateful for my team over there. I'm grateful for the love and care and communication they've had with me. But for my groups, everything came to a screeching halt. I had a couples retreat planned that got postponed twice now. I've had a women's retreat that has been postponed, and we are now traveling in October together. And I know just arriving is going to be overwhelming and emotional for all of us, because there's been so much anticipation and waiting and praying and hoping that this all actually comes to be, and it's coming to be. So patience.
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I am too.
So exactly what do you do on these retreats, and how is it different maybe from other retreat programs that somebody might sign up for?
Yeah, so what I've learned about this program, which continues to evolve, I always tell the women we're co-creating something. We're creating something really amazing. And each group to me is just more yummy and more deep, and the experiences that people have overwhelm me. It's such an honor for me to watch the evolution that's been happening, and the bravery that these women have had and the courage to do something like this. But to me, this is a very immersive experience. The women who've been called to the program are women largely who are going through some major transition in their own life. Maybe it's a simple career evolvement and change, and they're ready for something new in their life. Many are empty nesters. Maybe they awake one day and they realize they've given everything they have to their family and their work and their relationships, and they've completely neglected their own self-care. I have one woman, and she's not unlike others, who just ended a 20-year relationship. She started a new career a few years ago, and it's kind of like, where did I go? I'm ready to reconnect with myself. And what I've learned for myself is that sometimes it takes taking yourself halfway around the world into an environment where you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture. And it's scary as heck, right? Sometimes to be alone with yourself, but to reconnect with yourself and rediscover your own journey and set new intentions for changes in your life. That's really what this is all about. And it's really scary for some. There's some women, I have one woman in my group who is a single mom, who's a business owner, who I've been talking to this program about for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And she received one of my newsletters or emails or something, and she called me. She said, Theresa, it's time to go. Theresa, I'm ready to go. Well, what was heartbreaking for me is that my event was full. I had to tell her that I can't take her until 2022. And then, wouldn't you know it, 2 of the women in my fall retreat decided to, because of the pandemic and immunization challenges and other things going on, they're postponing for a year. And a spot opened up for her. And she was elated. It was like it was meant to be, because when I listened to her tell her story to the other women in the group as we prepare, she knows that this is her time. And she's not quite sure what's next for her as her children grow up and move on to the next dimension of their own life. So we do, once the group is formed, we spend 3 months together in group coaching sessions. We typically jump on Zoom and spend an hour and a half to 2 hours together. I'm a coach, so we do coaching exercises around fulfillment, around balance. We set intentions for this amazing retreat. There's one exercise we do that really helps us get in touch with our inner ally and pull some wisdom from our future self. What's going to make this an amazing experience for us. And so we really co-create what this week should look like and how we want to be. We spend 3 months in preparation. We do everything from some basic Italian language lessons, how to build a wardrobe capsule and prepare for a travel like this. I talk a little bit about the culture and what to expect when you arrive, but it really is about us getting to know one another and setting intentions for a powerful retreat experience. Once you arrive at the villa, you feel like you know these people just a little bit. And I think for those women who are traveling alone, that takes the edge off just a little. It takes a lot of courage to fly halfway around the world and live in a house with a bunch of women you don't know. I mean, that right there, it puts a lot of people on their edge, right? So anything I can do to help prepare them is useful. And then we have this most incredible itinerary plan. We live in this small medieval village, population of about 700 people, with the locals. Many of them don't speak any English. And we have these incredible immersive experiences where we spend a day on an organic farm with a family that has created this world-class cooking school, an organic farm. We spend a day with a family on their olive orchard and learn about cold press olive oil and how important the harvest is to them. We learn about winemaking and the rich history of the Sangiovese wine when we hike into the caves and learn about the winemaking and then get to taste the wine. And every evening we come home to our villa with our in-house chef and we sit at the table and we pass the rock and we share breakthroughs or discoveries or something that moved us from that day. And it's a very emotional, usually 3-hour dinner at the table with our in-house chef, Eleonora, who we cultivate and help craft the menu together. We spend time cooking with her in the kitchen, and it's just a very decadent, unique experience. And to me, when I fell in love with Tuscany, it was through the exploration of these small little villages that were very remote.
So why actually did you choose Tuscany? Was there a reason behind this?
You know, I had some breakthroughs that have happened in my life in Tuscany. The first time I visited Tuscany was 2006. I was married at the time. I was with my husband's family, and they created this most amazing, exquisite week living in this villa. It had been the first time I'd been to some of these small villages in Tuscany, but I fell in love with Tuscany during that time. The difficult part for me was that I was at a very challenged time in my life, in my relationship. I had just left my corporate job a few years before that and was still sort of searching what was next for me. I was raising these small children and feeling really lost in my life. I was feeling lonely, even inside my marriage. And here I was in this most beautiful setting in Italy and touring through Tuscany and having these incredible experiences every day. And I don't believe I was very present because I was so in my head about so many things that were going on in my life. When I came home, I found myself saying to myself over and over again, someday I'm going to go back to Tuscany. Someday I'm going to return to Tuscany. Almost as if there were breadcrumbs that I had left for myself that I needed to go back. There was just something very moving and very powerful me about needing to get back there. Well, fast forward 10 years, here I am in 2016 at this retreat of a friend of mine. And it was a local event, and I was actually supporting her standing in the back of the room. There were probably 150 people in that room and sitting in chairs listening to her up on the stage. And at one point she says, "What's that one thing that you hear yourself saying over and over again? Someday I'm going to do this." And Kate, the minute I heard these words come out of her mouth, tears stung my eyes and started streaming down my face. I lost complete control in the back of the room listening to this. And it was like, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is your one precious life. I don't know what I was waiting for, why I kept saying that to myself. I don't know if it was, someday I'll have more money. Someday I'll have more time. Someday I'll have this perfect relationship and person that I can go back to Tuscany with. I don't know what the excuses were, but there were many. And I went home that night and I opened up my laptop. I poured a big glass of wine first. And I sat down on my couch with my laptop on my lap, and I booked a one-way ticket to Tuscany 6 months in advance. And the minute I hit the send button and put in my credit card number, I completely fell apart. I thought, what in the hell did you just do, Theresa? This is reckless. This is irresponsible. How could you spend this money? How could you take this time? You have a kid in high school. What are you thinking, right? And it was if I hadn't thought it through, but I knew if I didn't do it right now, while I had the courage and book this trip, it was never going to happen. And I felt so guilty about spending the time, taking the money. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell my best friends. And I kept this dirty little secret to myself for weeks. And finally, I told one of my besties what I had done. And I think she thought I was like running away and never going to go home. And I said, no, I know I'm coming back. I just don't know how much time I'm going to spend there. I've got to make sure my child's care is taken care of and these details of my business and my clients don't fall apart. But it was such an empowering move. And so here I am, May, 6 months forward. I'm sitting on this beautiful terrace balcony, looking out over the hills of Montepulciano. I was writing in my journal, which I have with me here, and something happened to me in the quietness of the chatter. And that is that I had this big breakthrough. I found forgiveness for myself. I found forgiveness from my ex-husband, all the things that I had been through. It's scary and lonely to be alone with yourself like that, with your thoughts. And my heart just cracked wide open. And that was the moment I realized sometimes you have to take yourself completely out of your realm into this foreign land to reconnect with yourself. And I gained so much clarity on that trip. And when I started feeling brave, I started journaling and I was posting things on Facebook. I wrote a blog and posted it. And I had all these women, before I could even return to the States, email me and say, Theresa, I've always wanted to do something like this. I've always wanted to take myself to Tuscany. If you go back, could I come with you? One of them kind of jokingly said, well, you should have a retreat and we could all go together. And I thought, well, always, I host and facilitate retreats all over the country all the time. Why not Tuscany? Why not take a group of women here? And so I went back that fall for a 2-week work trip, and I got my team in place. I did all my research. I signed the deal on the villa. I set it all up and took my first group of 12 women 1 year later to Tuscany, and we hit it out of the park. And I would sit at the table in the evenings just weeping with tears streaming down my face, listening to the experiences that these women were having and some of the breakthroughs and discoveries that they had. And I thought, this is really important work. This might be the most important work I've ever done in my life. And since then, we have filled every retreat. I have women inquiring, throwing me, I have women who are prepaid for the full retreat in the fall of 2022, holding their spot. Because the minute you register, you get to pick your room in the villa. That's how I do it. And then what's evolving now is that I've been working in the wine industry sort of as my fun hobby job for years. And one of the wineries that I support and work with is Genoa Cellars, based in Woodinville. They have a tasting room. They're in Washington Wines. And they have asked me to take our wine club on retreat to Tuscany. So I will be taking 2 couples retreat events, two groups of couples, on retreat in Tuscany next year, in addition to 2 women's events that are planned. And I'm just thrilled because I find that as I talk to some of the men and I talk to some of the couples who are preparing for this, that they want the same thing that these incredible women have wanted, which is to slow down, reconnect with themselves, learn more about a different culture, and really set some intentions for their future. And I really think after this 1.5 years that we've been through, I don't know one person who is not reassessing every single element of their life right now, right? Like your relationships and your career and how you live your life and where you live your life. And I see people making some very significant choices right now that are really important. And so once again, I've got to pinch myself sometimes because I get to do this work and all these incredible people have helped curate and create it with me. And So I'm looking forward to this next dimension. Like, oh, now we're taking couples. Okay, the men finally get to go because they've been asking for a couple of years. When do I get to go? So that's what's
Yes.
next year.
So, what are some of the transformations or pivots that women have experienced on your retreats?
I've seen some women find the courage to finally launch that business that they've always wanted to launch. I've seen some women set intentions and now taking steps to retire from a job that they thought they could never afford to retire from, and letting that daydream, just that idea, write that stuff down and making it happen, manifesting their dreams. I have one woman who, after retreat, she decided to go to Florence and fell madly in love with this beautiful Italian man. And I don't know that the relationship is still bubbling, but she is. And she's making plans to live in Italy. She's raised her kids, she's done her work at home, and she's ready now to take on this next dimension of her own life. And it's fascinating to me because it sometimes it takes surrounding yourself by all these other women as well who see you and hear you and champion you. Women supporting women is probably the most powerful movement I've been a part of personally. Not that we don't love the men in our life and get incredible support from them, but there's something about women, especially working moms who run businesses or who have raised families and run businesses and have completely neglected their own self-care. Finally speak up for themselves and step up and say, it's my turn now. And I need to let go of the guilt that I'm feeling around my own self-care. And those are probably the most powerful intentions that I've seen evolve into true action, taking steps and being the leader of their own life. And like I said earlier, you never know who's watching. And one small action and one step will inspire someone else to be brave and do the same thing right behind you. So
Well, I can really see how a group like that would nurture that support between women.
Yeah.
So, do your groups stay in touch after the retreat? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've seen as far as the follow-up experiences for your groups?
It's been moving for me and something I didn't expect, how close these relationships have become and maintained. We always set up on our phones, we use the WhatsApp, and we create a group WhatsApp, conversations. So while we're traveling, we can communicate with each other. But my phone must blow up once or twice every couple of days because these group chats continue for every group, talking with one another, sharing with one another. Sometimes it converts over to a group text. They champion each other's businesses and lives. One of them's a new grandma, and she couldn't wait to share all the pictures with everybody. It's like you have this new group of sisters. There's a sisterhood or something. It might sound kind of silly, but there's something really magical that happens. The vulnerability. I tell everyone that the most important ingredient for showing up at this retreat when you arrive at the villa is to arrive with an open heart. And we're really good at giving. A lot of us women, we're not so good at receiving. And so these relationships that form and the trust and the bond that each group forms is so beautiful. The first time I ever brought all four of the groups together was last year. We had a joint, I called it a reunion retreat, and it was in Seattle. So I had several women from each of the cohorts, each of the groups come. And although some of these women had never met each other before, it was like a sisterhood because they had experienced all of these incredible things in this little village. They have the same friends in Italy that they still talk to in our little village and have relationships with as well. And I realized that this sense of connection that we bring to one another and that manifests itself and continues. I'm planning an event in Seattle in September for the Genoa Cellars couples that are going to be traveling with me next May. And the winemaker said, well, why don't you invite the retreat to Tuscany members who live in the area who might want to do this? Because they're going to want to talk about their experiences and help coach and support those who haven't gone yet. And so there's a sisterhood, there's a tribe, kind of feeling that's creating here, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool to connect these women and watch them champion and support each other, even outside of the groups that travel together. And I really love what we're building here. It's
So, what would you say is the ideal candidate or client for your retreat program?
There's an absolute affinity for and love of Italy and all things Italy for those who've been drawn to this culture. So much revolves around the harvest, slow cooking, slow living, the food, the wine, the relationships, and all these lessons around culture that seem to really draw people. I also feel like for the women's retreat program, there's a calling. There's something that's missing in that individual's life that they're yearning for, and maybe they don't even know what it is. And if they can find the courage to either travel alone or maybe travel with a partner and commit to something like this, there's work to be done. We spend our mornings, several mornings, we start on the yoga mat, where our yoga instructor teaches us about meditation and yoga. It's very basic all the way to advanced. Half of my groups have never sat on a yoga mat before. And it's emotional. I mean, we will gather sometimes at the end of a class and realize someone just had an incredible breakthrough and is laying on their mat and can't move, because they were touched so much by something that happened. And I really feel like the timing is impeccable for everyone who has said yes to themselves. And so if you're going through some form of transition, if you see some form of transition that's needed, if you're feeling stuck in your life, in your relationship, in your career, and there's something more for yourself, but you don't know what it is, find the courage to say yes to you, because you will be championed and supported by an incredible group of women who will hold space for you to do the work that's needed to be done. And those are the women who have probably the greatest experiences and the biggest shifts in their life that are very, very positive.
So the retreats sound wonderful, but I know that putting together a retreat is not, not the easiest thing in the world. So what is the most challenging aspect of putting the retreats together?
Oh, gosh. Well, for me, it's a lot of organization. I have an assistant. She's based in Huntington Beach, California. So we talk on a very regular basis. She was one of the first women to go through this retreat with me, but she just also happens to be my bestie from college. And so it's beautiful and fun for us to do this work. But really understanding the big why behind the yes for these women, for me on the front end is really critical. This isn't for everyone. I've had some women call and think they're interested. They want to go on a trip with their sister or their girlfriend or whatever. And they realize, oh, this is all laid out for me. I don't need to do anything. I just need to show up. And I realized that if you're not ready to give and receive equally, and there aren't some pivotal things going on in your life and you're willing to invest in the retreat aspect of this probably isn't for you. And I have friends that are guides and travel agents that can plan an incredible trip to Italy for you. But for me, it's really making sure it's the right mix of people, that the individuals who say, yeah, there's an application, which is a coaching exercise that you will submit to me. After I receive your application, I want some one-on-one time with you to determine if this is a good fit. So there's some investment there of time, and it really, for me, I'm fascinated about people. I'm a coach, so of course I love that time with the individuals. And then it's the organization. I was up till midnight last night updating my spreadsheets and my budget. And after the pandemic, it's okay, what is this going to cost now? And what's the exchange rate going to be now? It's a lot of detail. Another thing that's, I'm learning about right now is what are all the rules flying into Italy? And that's changing all the time with the requirements of immunization, having an immunization card, who might need to quarantine and what would be those circumstances. Like there's a lot I need to stay on top of right now to make sure we're safe, that I'm not putting anyone in any harm. I will not take anyone into our little remote village who is not fully immunized and prepared to wear a mask when they need to wear a mask. We're just going to be dealing with that for a little while now. And I think everybody in my group is completely fine with that, right? So it's really being responsible for coaching them through the process, teaching them how to register with the American Embassy, making sure they go through their to-do list before they embark on some international travel. Some women have never traveled, and men. I have a family I'm taking right now, a family of 4 actually, who's going on the wine club event with us next year. 2 of them have never been outside the country before. So it's just slowing down and spending time coaching and supporting them in a little anxiety, stress, and uncertainties that we're all dealing with right now. And so keeping myself cool, calm, and collected isn't easy. Sometimes I'm very anxious. I'm very homesick for Tuscany. It'll be 2 years for me by the time I get on my plane and arrive in October this year. And I'll probably weep all the way there in the first 3 days that I'm there. Elation and joy of being back. And that balancing act of keeping my day job going while I'm doing all of that, and my relationships and my boys that are in college and all that right now is a lot some days, but it's
So how long do the retreats last?
So 1 week, Saturday to Saturday. However, most of the women who come, I always tell everyone, if you're going to go that far, extend your travel if you can. And I actually encourage women to travel alone. Find the courage to, because when you have a travel partner, all your energy goes into accommodating that person that you're with. Where are we going to eat? What are we going to do? What time should we get up? And I tell you what, Kate, before I took that one journey with myself to Italy, I had never traveled alone internationally before. And I have to admit, it's now my favorite way to travel. I loved waking up and creating my own journey for the day, and sitting by myself in a restaurant and meeting the restaurant owners and engaging with other people. It's how I built a lot of relationships that I have over there, because I was dependent on others, not only for my communication and entertainment, but just getting through my day. And it's a very vulnerable, scary thing for a lot of us to do something like that. So most of my women on retreat will come early or stay late, and I give them a list of places, other retreat members. It's another way we stay connected, of places that you want to go to Cinque Terre and go hiking through the 5 villages. Here's some places where retreat members have stayed before. And you want to go to Rome and you want to explore all of ancient Rome before you come to retreat. Here's a guy who runs a golf cart, and he'll pick you up and take you to all these places. If you don't want to walk through the city, we can be a resource to one another in the planning. And so 7 days that are just exquisite, where I've got the wheel, everything's taken care of for you with my assistant. But I really do encourage you to extend your travel and either come early or stay late and have some adventures. If you're there, why not? Especially after the 1.5 years we've been, everybody's dying to get some international travel under their belt.
Definitely. So what is the most rewarding aspect of doing your retreats for you personally?
Oh my gosh. I know that it is the blessing that I feel, the privilege that I feel to witness these women have incredible breakthroughs and changes in their life, and to trust me enough to do this with me. I know it's not a small thing. For some of these women, this is a trip of a lifetime. They've never gone somewhere like this before. They've never invested in themselves like this before. They've never taken the time to do something just for themselves. And so to me, it's just an incredible privilege. It moves me. It has changed who I am. I know that I have a lot less tolerance for things and people and stuff that I, had before, because of the experiences that I've had with these women. I learn from them. I'm reminded every day how precious this life is, and who I give my time to, how I spend my time, who I serve. I mean, to me, this is all service and serving others. And the secret now is that I think I get way more out of this than any of these women, because of how much I learn and how much I have grown from these experiences. I know that my relationships are improved. I'm a better person as a result of the things I've learned in this journey. I'm a better coach. I call my clients out on their stuff like it's no, nothing, because time is precious, right? Our work is precious. And I feel like it's given me a lot of courage to be incredibly authentic and be very straight with everyone in my life and not mess around. And I'm grateful for that.
So just briefly, tell us a little bit about the people that help you with these retreats.
Yeah. So I have my assistant here that I was talking about earlier. She travels with me. I call her my MacGyver because she'll fix anything, solve anything. She sees things that I don't see. It's amazing how two women, she sits on the other end of the table with me, and we can be in the same room and be part of the same conversation, and she hears something completely different. So I'm grateful for her as I'm hosting, every day. She's behind the scenes getting so much done, and often in front of me when I don't even realize she's there. Over there, I've got my chef, Eleonora, and she basically moves in and is with us the entire time. We plan the menu with her. She'll tell us what's in season in May or what's in season in fall. And so we can build the menu together. We actually vote on the antipasti or the primi or the secondi or the dolce that we want to try. She makes homemade limoncello and brings it to us. And so it's such a treat to have her. She has become like a sister to me. We brought her to Seattle at our reunion event. It was her first time ever to travel to the States, and we got to bring her here. And we cooked together and danced together and had so much fun together at our reunion event. Then I have Antonella, who is my rock star tour guide. She's my confidant, who's also become an incredible friend. She lives right there in our village of Montesi. Her husband is a renowned wine consultant. So she can get us behind the curtain to some VIP experiences that you would never get on a tour, right? A typical tour. And this is why it's a world-class experience, is that she curates and connects me to people who have created these world-class experiences for my clients and changed the feel and vibe of everything that we do. So she's there with me, and my very dear partner, Annalisa, who's my yoga instructor. She teaches meditation and yoga, and she and her husband live on a vineyard. They produce their own wine. She's a little chapel on site. So she also it officiates weddings right there on her property. She's the most remarkable woman. And so I just got a message from her today. We're making all of our plans for October, and she can't wait for us to arrive. And then in our little village, there's just a string of characters. Gianluca, who runs the Corner Cafe. He will be there to greet you and get you your cappuccino and your pastry, if you want to wander down there. And he'll be actually making a meal for us on site at his restaurant. It's the only corner cafe in town. And so everybody gets to know Gianluca, who's kind of like the town mayor. When we go to Sinalunga and Market Day, it's like the mall shows up in the piazza and it comes to life. And so Andrea and Bea, who run the little corner cafe in that little village, have become dear friends as well. And they welcome our groups. We get behind the counter, we take group pictures, and we have so much fun with them. And, our driving service has just been wonderful. They take care of everything for us and get us from point A to point B safely every day. They're sweet and they're fun. And there's so many people over there that feel like family. Podere Il Casale is a family run. They're actually Swiss, and 21 years ago, they bought this barren land in Pienza and have converted it to a world-class organic farm and cooking school. They produce their own cheese and wine and teach us how to make pasta. And it's always an emotional day to go to Pienza and spend that day on their farm and learning about zero radius cooking and living. And they're all friends. I have relationships with these people, and everyone who's gone on retreat with me also now considers them friends and stays in close contact with them, which is really, really special.
Sounds absolutely wonderful.
No, thank you.
So I have a kind of off-topic question for you now. I've been asking all my guests this for a while. What has surprised you most about life so far?
That we are all imperfectly perfect human beings trying to be perfect in life, and that it's the messiness and the challenges that we face that really break our hearts wide open and bring us to the truth. I think the messiest things and the biggest challenges that I have had have brought me where I am. And if I had a magic wand, I might go back and change a few things. But sitting where I am right now, I think it's learning to embrace the messiness of life and be curious about it instead of judge it, and learn.
Very, very true and profound statement.
Mm.
Yes. So if you could leave the listeners with one thought from today's show, what would you want that to be?
Well, I would share something that I'm learning and sharing with a lot of my clients right now, my private client work and my small business owners, is that this past year and a half has changed us. And this isn't a dress rehearsal. This is life. This is it. We don't get to go back and have a second chance at this, as far as I know. And it's time for us to do those things that we said we've always wanted to do. What's that one thing that you hear yourself saying? Someday I'm going to do this. What are you waiting for? This is it. If you have your health and you have the resources and ability to create them, like we're pretty privileged people overall. And if you're resourceful enough and you want something enough, and this is something I say to my boys, one of them is 24, one of them is 20, going to be 21. Don't wait. Make your dreams come true. Figure out what it is you want in life and make it happen, and find the courage to do the things for yourself that you really want to do. And I've learned this myself just through all my mishaps. And I learned this continually through my clients and through these experiences. And so the wisdom that I've learned and shared, I guess that would be the most important thing I could pass on, a legacy piece, if I could. So thank you for asking me that.
Definitely. That is the message of my show. Pursuing your passions.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of Soulfire wisdom. So
thank you. Yes.
So if the listeners want to, get in touch, find out more about what you're doing or the retreats, what's the best way to do that?
I love my phone. I love getting private voice messages from people saying, I heard you. I want to talk to you. That's my favorite thing of all. That's like my drug of choice. Just call me, email me, go on retreattotuscany.com, retreattotuscany.com. And it gives you all the pretty, behind the scenes stories and pictures. It tells you everything you might want to know about the retreat program. My client, my private consulting and managing for performance.com actually also takes you straight into Retreat to Tuscany. I have a lot of clients who are small business owners who are so moved by what they've seen, and they have been some of my best clients on retreat because they're curious, they're ready to invest in themselves and do something really, really special. So as I've branded and grown these two very different dynamic businesses, I had this epiphany this past year that it's kind of all in the same. And now that I get to take couples and men on retreat with me as well, like I think we're all in a place in life where our hearts are open and we want to live big and make our dreams come true. So share it with a loved one, call me, email me, really go snoop around. I love hearing that people have been doing their research, and the pictures and images that we share with the world really tell our story.
Okay, great. So that's pretty easy, Retreat to Tuscany. But if you forget that, you can go to the radio website, soulfireradio.com, click on guests and scroll down to Theresa's name, and the website is listed there. So thank you so much for being here. We did have a couple of comments from listeners who said thank you.
Aw, thank you. Thanks for listening. It's such a beautiful story that we get to share. So I'm privileged.
Yes. And as I have said before, it's definitely something that I'd like to do.
Well, Kate, let's talk about you coming. I've got a few spots open for spring of next year and a few spots open for fall of next year. And I just heard myself say this out loud to someone that I may open up a second retreat in fall of 2022 because there's so much interest in fall harvests.
People are getting interested. Good.
Yeah, I think some people are still tentative about travel, after the pandemic. And
yes,
there's just a lot of chatter and it can scare people and lock them up. And we all just need to find courage and do what our heart's telling us to do. And you know what? We rescheduled once, then we rescheduled twice. It's like, okay, the world didn't fall through. The sky didn't break. You know what? Plans change and it's going to be even bigger and better and more. We're going to appreciate it so much more, I think, because of what we've been through. That's for sure.
Well, thank you again. And I'd like to thank the listeners for listening today. I have a quote to take with you through your week, and that is, travel is the only thing you buy that makes you richer. And that is who said that first is actually unknown, but it's absolutely true, and I love it.
So. I do too. I love that quote. And it is so true. And get rid of a lot of things. Many of us are minimizing and, getting rid of things. It's a theme in a lot of our lives. And, but travel's not one of them.
No, definitely not.
And when we're limited by it, right? Like it's really
special. We realize that how important it is when you can't do it.
Don't take things for granted. So it's midweek. It's Tuesday, right? Midweek is the best time to book travel, people. This is what I've learned, because the fewer people are booking travel, you get the best rates and the most opportunities and options. So Wednesday, Thursday, daydream tonight and pull the trigger tomorrow. Most airlines now, this is crazy. This is a great thing out of the pandemic, is that airlines now offer fully refundable or fully creditable changes on your airline tickets. I think it's just going to be a thing in the future. It's very rare to find any travel now that doesn't provide that. So there's no risk, people.
Well, as I said, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. And I enjoyed my time with you.
We have another great show planned for next week. Next week, my guest will be Conrad Real. And Conrad is a kind of famous Seattle percussionist. And he actually is known by a nickname around Seattle, the nickname of Superman. And tune in next week and find out, how he got that nickname. So we're running just a little bit behind. So I'm going to say bye for now. And thanks again, Theresa.
Ciao. Grazie mille. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Soul Fire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soul Fire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.